Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, this is the boundaries panel meeting, which is a hybrid meeting, but I think most of the councillors are here in person. Not just checking, Councillor Ball's not virtual, is he? So yes, usual mobile switched off and all that, and you know the protocol for everything else. We're going to start. The way we're going to start the meeting is by having two wards first. Oh, sorry, yes, I'm Councillor Chris Summers, in case anybody wants to know. Chairing the meeting. Sorry, I saw a hand up. Yeah, Councillor Rice.
Sorry, are we going to do the minutes of the last meeting?
Indeed, yes.
Okay,
correct.
Brilliant. Because I'd just like to point out that I was here, and I've, so the minutes just need to be amended to say that I was here. And also
okay,
the website.
Hold on a second. Sorry, first I've got to go through the apologies for absence.
Okay, yes.
Which is simply Councillor Nagpal is not well. She's not making the meeting. We don't have any matters to be considered in private, I don't believe. We don't have any urgent matters. Anyone would make any declarations of interest? So yeah, we'll go back to the minutes. You were saying.
Sorry, Chair, I thought you were moving straight on to the business. Sorry for a second there. So I thought I put my hand up. Yes, because I was here at the last meeting, and it also means that I'm missing off the website, and so I'm down as absent, which that will need to be changed as well, please. I mean, I did talk a fair amount during that meeting, so I'm not quite sure how I was forgotten, but there you go. I'm very short, so I'm easily forgotten. So sorry. That's good. Thank you.
We move on to the main event of the evening, the polling district and polling place review from 2022 onwards. I'm going to start by there's two wards where we have representations. Officer Ross Jackson, can you first start by telling us about Ealing Broadway and the representations made there?
Sure. We had a representation from Mr. French. It's in the report with regards to no longer using the Telfer room in Ealing Town Hall. Instead, we're proposing Christ the Saviour. Now, it's a valid point. We would much prefer to use the Telfer room. It's Ealing owned and everything, but the reason why we haven't done so is that the building is to be redeveloped, sold, etc. And so it's no longer available to us. So that's why we recommended we move to Christ the Saviour. So hopefully that's straightforward.
I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that, but it seems a fairly obvious move. It's only less than 100 yards, isn't it? Asking people to move. Councillor?
Yeah, I think it's an eminently sensible move for it to be made. It's right in the heart of our new town centre location there in Dickens Yard. It's literally transparent in terms of the building that we're asking people to go to, and I think it's a very sensible way forward. And I would suggest we accept the recommendation that we have to move it there.
Councillor Rice.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, I do understand the point that it does cost us money to have the polling station elsewhere in this particular instance, but it's all part of really the investment into the new town hall and getting the work done. So I think it's one of those things that we just have to take into account. We probably have taken into account that we're going to have to make a number of changes to the way we run our business on a very temporary basis. Thank you.
Okay, so we're probably going to have to take a vote on that. All those in favour of accepting the officer's recommendation to move to Christ the Saviour Church Hall? That's unanimous. So Ross, you've got that, and that's been minuted, obviously. The next one is Ealing Common. Can you bring us up to speed on that one?
Sure. So if you recall, the original recommendation from the returning officer was to move the temporary polling station. This is in our preliminary review, the temporary polling station on the Trees Estate. We refer to that temporary station as the temporary polling station on the junction of Lilac Gardens and Sycamore Avenue. And if you recall, we were proposing that the polling district, by the way, in question is ES. And we were proposing that those electors move to the Assyrian Centre for the reason that it was close by. It could take those electors, and we could, drop a temporary hut. But clearly, we've received a petition moved by Councillor Anand, signed by 151 registered electors in that polling district, requesting that we reconsider that. And in fact, that the petition states, we, the undersigned, call on Ealing Council to keep our polling station on the Trees Estate. So 151 signatories asking for us to reverse that. So i.e. not move those electors to the Assyrian Centre and reinstate the temporary polling station on Lilac, on the junction of Lilac Gardens and Sycamore Avenue.
Anybody want to come in on that? Councillor Woodruff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On this subject, I was in the Trees Estate 2 or 3 weeks ago. As is our want, we go around knocking on doors at places, and we were knocking on doors in the Trees Estate, and occasionally I might ask how you're likely to vote in the next election. And several people, I have to say, at least 4 people separately, quite unprompted, said, well, I'm not going to be able to vote because you're moving the polling station away, and I can't possibly go all that way. So, and that's true. I mean, that's what people were saying, which I was quite concerned. I'm a great believer in people voting. I do it at citizenship ceremonies. That's one thing I would say to people: you've got your citizenship, you've got the ability to vote now. Please go and vote. I'm not going to say which way you do vote, but I always make sure that, and I think it's very important. I think if we're moving a polling station away and it means a number of people won't be voting who would have voted otherwise, I think that's a problem. I think so. I think we need to keep it where it is. Although I understand the reasons against it, but because obviously financially. But I think in this case, I think we should leave it where it is.
Councillor Conti.
Sorry. Thanks. What's the actual distance from in terms of meters, or from where the? Oh, it's red. Oh, it's, sorry. What's the distance from where the new proposed voting booth is in the Assyrian Centre to where it was on Lilac Road? Looking at the map, I don't think it's particularly far. I know I sort of mentioned this at the last meeting of this a few months ago, that obviously I know we shouldn't necessarily be comparing one ward to another, but in Northfields we've got there's a huge polling district with one single polling station on one end, and from Southdown Avenue to Northcroft Road is a huge distance, and we're saying that's acceptable, but we're probably talking a few hundred meters here. I just think that before really
Ross comes back on that, I would point out that the temporary polling place was actually, the problem is for the people at the east end of the Trees Estate. They already, had to go to the temporary polling place. Now they were being asked to go even further to the Assyrian Centre. So, whereas, for people on the west end of the Trees Estate, it may not make a great deal of difference. It does make a difference. I mean, I went down there on Saturday, and it was actually pouring with rain. And I was thinking, if this was a polling day and it was raining all day, would people, if they live near to the temporary polling place, they're more likely to go out and vote than, I've got to go all the way to the Assyrian Centre, across the road. Wards are different. I know demographically, and some people are more likely to vote than others. Historically, Trees Estate, there's been fairly low turnout. So we want to do anything we can to encourage that. But Ross, can you clarify the distance?
It's around 200 meters extra. Of course, if you were to, because you talk about the east, I mean, if you were towards the west, of course, on the other side of the core, you'd be a lot closer, even to the temporary station. So I think, you know, it's the call of this panel. It's how, you know, we could have 500 polling stations and people just need to go at the end of their roads. But I think, you know, we've got to, I mean, in my view, you know, sensible about this, and costs do come into it, and it's not just cost with these temporary stations. It's the fact that they meet the very lower end of DDA, and I can well imagine it's sometime in the distant future. We're just not, they're so poor, we're not going to be allowed to use them, and we've continually over a number of years spent lots of money on them. It's about between £6,000 and £10,000 per temporary station, additional to what it would be for a normal one. And I think I've attached with the report some clarity on that, where we've got some temporary huts cost £42 a vote, where we've got some, the average is, you know, less than £1. So look, it's your call. I mean, obviously not, you know, somebody's mentioned every area is different, but you know, it's over to this panel. I mean, I think we've had a signed petition of 151 electors. That carries some weight, I would say, but you know, it's the decision of this panel, really, on where you want to go with it.
Okay, I've got two councillors waiting, then I'm going to come back to Helen. Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Chair. Because when I just originally started looking at the map and just trying to guess how far people might need to walk, it seemed to me that maybe it might just be an extra 5-minute walk. It didn't seem to be quite so onerous, really. But then really, when you actually get the chance to go to the estate and actually understand about the kind of distances we are talking about, and having to walk through those streets, and they're not like, it's not kind of straightforward grid all the time necessarily. It would actually be quite a walk to get to what the proposed polling place. But actually, adding on to what Councillor Woodruff said, is that I did actually speak to a lady, and I didn't even talk about voting. It was completely unprompted. She turns around and says that she's unhappy about this proposal, because it would mean that a number of her neighbours simply would not be able to vote, and they would not be able to make that journey across. And I can understand as well. I mean, it's actually psychologically, you've got the South Ealing Road to tackle as well. There's an awful lot in the way. So I just would agree that I think that we do need to keep that temporary polling station, because it certainly does suit what the people need in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mahfouz.
Thanks. Just to come back, I think Councillors Woodruff and Rice have made very eloquent and poignant points, really, in terms of actually this isn't just about 200 metres, as Ross Jackson said, if everyone flew like a crow from one location to the other, because that's a sort of, you know, as the crow flies from one spot to the other. But it is actually, you know, anyone who's actually been there will know, as Councillor Rice said, you really have to meander through the estate to be able to get from one side to the other, then negotiate the South Ealing Road, then get partway down Temple Road, then to come into the Assyrian Centre. And we considered this as a committee when we had to lose some of the temporary polling stations from the point of view of COVID, but we accepted at the time that that was only as a temporary move, and that was on the basis that we would go back to that site going forward. So as everyone has said already, you know, it's quite a large estate, particularly if you look at that end. I think it's Willow Road is that last road. We'd be asking them to make what is, for probably a lot of them, a journey too far. And I think the point here is, what cost are we saying that, you know, we're putting on democracy in terms of allowing people to be able to vote, having been through effectively 2 years of a pandemic by the time we get through to this, and we're saying actually we're going to disenfranchise you by moving the polling station to a different venue, and we're you know, and that's going to stop you from voting. I don't think it's worth the proposal as currently stands, and I think we need to move it back to the reinstate the temporary polling station on the green.
I'm going to move to the vote shortly, but sorry, I'll let you speak. But sorry, Helen wanted to make a point.
I think that Councillor Mahfouz has probably highlighted the main point I was going to make, which is that this station was one of the ones that we were not able to sustain as meeting health and safety requirements during the pandemic. Just a reminder, which just to emphasise what Ross was saying, we keep all our polling places continually under continuous review. And regarding, I have some nervousness about, regardless of COVID, whether some or all of our temporary stations are going to continue to meet required standards to keep voters and our polling workers as well safe, which obviously is a priority, and also disability accessibility is much more challenging in a temporary, what's basically really a hut. So completely this I can tell the way the vote is going on this, but just a reminder that depending on the outcome of assessments, there may be a later recommendation that's brought back in relation to this and others.
Yeah, just on that point, whatever decision we make tonight, we'll have another boundaries panel in February, and at that point we'll know how COVID is. Hopefully we won't have a fourth wave and it's out of control again. But in that event, we might have to rethink some of these decisions. So we're making these decisions on the basis that COVID sort of goes away and we can return to some sort of normality in May. Councillor Conti.
It's a small point. I just think obviously this isn't the only way that you can vote, and people can get a postal vote very easily, like a third, pretty much a third of the electorate in Ealing do have. So, it's not, I can understand obviously people have to, maybe have to walk a bit further, but if that is the limiting factor of you having to go and vote, you can always apply for a postal vote. I don't feel particularly strongly either way on this one, but I guess the point is that, it just doesn't seem that, it didn't seem that unreasonable to me, but no.
Councillor Ball is here, but virtually. But I think, yeah, I'm going to, okay, Councillor Ball and then Councillor Saviours.
Yeah, I think this is a...
You on holiday again? Councillor Ball, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you ever. I'll take Councillor Saviours and then.
Some of the difficulties.
Oh no, he's back.
Did you lose me then?
No, we couldn't hear you. Carry on.
Okay. Yes, I'll switch the video off because it's a poor signal. Yeah. So I was just saying that the Village Park Estate, Trees Estate, it is a specific community, and I accept the point. I agree with the point that Councillor Anand made, that people are more likely to vote if they have got a polling station which is on the estate itself. So I think we should try to make that happen.
Yeah, we got the gist of it, I think.
Cost involved, so I think it would make sense to retain the temporary place.
John, you're breaking up, so I'm going to cut you off, but persevere. Councillor Saviours.
Yeah, thank you. I just think I want to reiterate the point that we had petitions from people that have highlighted that they want to change. Sorry, John, I'm talking to you now. I also raised the point that Councillor Woodcock and Councillor Rice had voted to say they will not engage. I think we need to maximise democracy, and the change that we're making will do that. So I would go for a change on that basis. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't know if the clerk, maybe
he's muted already, Chair, but I think it's just a lag issue on the internet.
Okay, right. So not Councillor Ball's fault.
Can I move to a vote that we retain the polling state, the previously located temporary polling station on the corner of Lilac Road in the estate?
Yes, I don't think we need to second that. I think we go straight to the vote. So all those in favour of retaining the temporary polling place at Lilac Gardens and Sycamore. Yeah. Of course, yes, Councillor Ball's not counted. That's unanimous then. There was one other issue with Ealing Common, which I would like to just air with you, Ross. Sorry, it's the issue of Councillor Anand also mentioned to me the Polish church, which I think had been a polling place previously. I think you're muted. Yes, sorry, in the Polish church in Windsor Road. Is he there?
Okay, yeah. So what we used to use it, now we don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I sorry get some clarification on why people in that polling district were now going to, I think, another church further south, Church Hall.
Right. I mean, obviously, with the ward changes, with the boundary changes in the wards, we have, unfortunately had to lose a few because we've had situations whereby with the ward line changes, we've had two polling districts, two polling places available to us, for example, for a polling district. So we've tended to choose the one that's either more central or has better polling facilities. So I'd have to come back to you for the specifics on that, unless Santok, you'd like to come in on that one. Have you got anything to add, Santok, specifically to why we've lost the Polish?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, but the Polish church was just outside the ward. It seems the new polling station we're sending people to isn't that far away, and it makes sense to keep the polling station within the ward.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. So that's Ealing Common sorted. That was the only other issue. So the rest of the wards I'm proposing to go through alphabetically. Yeah, we will go through them alphabetically. If anyone wants to raise any issue with any particular, I've got a few issues I wanted to raise. But yeah, we'll start with Central Greenford. I don't think there are any issues. We had quite a bit of a tussle last time, didn't we? Yeah, we sorted it out. Yes, so we have all that sorted out. So that's agreed, unless anyone has any objection. Yeah, I'm going to go through, on that basis, that unless somebody says something, we're going to agree it. Dormers Wells, again, no issues. Agreed. And Ealing Broadway, we've already discussed, and Ealing Common. So the next one is East Acton, where there are, well, there's one main issue. Again, like we had with the Trees Estate, we've been, knocking on doors and meeting people in the last few months and discussing some of the, well, the issue of polling places has cropped up, often unsolicited. And there was one particular spot in the East Acton ward, I think it's AQ polling district, Westcott Park, which they are being asked to vote at John Perrin School, which I understand is not the easiest place for them to get to, having to go down a road or a footbridge and a dead man's alley, etc. So the suggestion is simply there, or a suggestion I'm proposing, it would be to carve out a new small polling district. Where is it? Yeah, the railway is the barrier there in AQ. So that would be that triangle west of the railway in AQ. And could we restore the polling station at Westcott Park Community Centre? Does anybody know that area?
I think, Chair, if I can just, Ross Jackson here. Darren, is it possible you could get this up on the screen so that the
the host has disabled screen sharing, so the host that end has disabled it at the moment. So if someone can enable it, I can share the screen. Yeah.
Right.
Councillor Kelly speak, but yeah, please share the map or the screen.
Okay, I've got that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, when the map of Westcott Park comes up, what it doesn't demonstrate, it's quite high density there. It's as where the rest of AQ is single, it's 2-story houses. So it is a place that's quite hemmed away. So they, for them to vote, they would I don't know this Dead Man's Alley, but I do know that you've got to walk down to the A40, across and up under the footbridge and up, and it's uphill going down Long Drive up to John Perrin, so they'd be walking uphill as well. It's not that flat, but there is a suitable already used Westcott Park Community Centre, and so it is quite a high density. There's more people in that part than what the map suggests.
I believe there's a sort of brand new building on the A40 which is going to have about 100 or so electors. Or yeah. So Ross, can you would that be feasible to restore Westcott Park?
I think that's what you're proposing, is it, Chair? So it's as Darren's got there. So it's that segment of the Cotton Avenue, Ferguson Drive, and the other avenue at the top there. So yeah, there is I think you refer to it as the Westcott Park Estate, and there's a Westcott Park Community Centre. So the electorate there, we're probably looking at a couple of hundred. From what I can see of it, I don't know whether Darren, you can work your magic and see what the electorate is within inside that area. So it would be one of the smallest polling districts that we would have. But if the thought is it is just too difficult for them to get across to the John Perrin Primary School, then again, it's for the panel. There is a fixed building in there, so if the panel wants to go that way, so 654. So thanks, Darren. So you a third of those will be postal voters. So you probably look at 400. So you're probably looking at a turnout of about 150 electors within the.
Sorry. So there's a total electorate of 654.
Yes. So correct. But a third of those will be postal voters.
Okay. Right.
And then if you work out the turnout, would probably be with the postal voters between 15 and 20 at the station, I would say there. But it's a couple of hundred electors on a parliamentary. So if it is that difficult for them to cross to get to John Perrin, then we can reinstate the fixed building community centre.
Okay.
Yeah, just very quickly, Chair. I think, no man is an island, but this estate certainly is. And I think, you can see here by the difficulty that anybody who's ever been here would not be arguing against retaining a community, the polling station in this location. It is unbelievable to get out of there one road in, one road out, the same road out, obviously just that little Y junction at the bottom. And then you are hitting the A40 literally. You've got railways on either side as well, and then that long walk up Long Drive uphill to John Perrin just doesn't seem reasonable at all, I think. So we'd be absolutely, again, if I can ask to move to a vote on reinstating the polling station at the community centre.
Okay, we'll go straight to the vote. All those in favour of this new mini polling district with Westcott Park? Is Councillor Ball still with us? Oh, he can't vote anyway. Sorry, yeah. Okay, that's passed then. I think that was the only item I wanted to raise for East Acton. Alphabetically, the next one is Greenford Broadway, and I think there might be some issues here. Councillor Mahfouz.
So a couple of issues. One is probably more straightforward, and I'll just wait for the map to come up. But if we could probably focus on NU polling to start off with, which is probably the more straightforward one. And we'll see here that the southern half of the polling district, just south of the Ruislip Road, has some significant distance, plus the Ruislip Road, of course, to cross over into the Rectory Park estate, and then go almost right to the top of the Rectory Park estate in order to vote. So we did have a polling station previously in Invicta Grove, and I would recommend to the panel that we reinstate that polling station and have a polling district for the southern half south of the Ruislip Road for NU. And then if we can move over to NS, to the east of the ward.
I think it might be better if we if we just stick to that one.
Okay, fine. Sorry.
First, and then we'll move on to the other issue. Councillor Kelly, one.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's a bit like the Trees estates. The demographic, you know, it's quite an underprivileged estate, and you know, you don't want to disenfranchise them. But you know, it's in some ways it's very similar to the Trees estate in terms of the issue. So I would recommend to put the Invicta Grove back.
I think there are very similar arguments to the Trees estate. Yes, sorry, Darren, could you also point out where the temporary polling place was within that area? All right, yeah, so it's quite a sizable, much bigger than Westcott Park, for example. Yeah, and so the polling place was at the top. That's where you're indicating, I guess. Okay, well, I mean, you certainly, it would stop you having to, you know, cross the road and then walk quite a way to West Rectory Park. Councillor Conti.
Just that seems much more central in that polling district. Couldn't we just have that as the single polling station for that polling district then? Because that's much more in the middle than the one that is currently being proposed, which is on the sort of north west corner. So if that one's right on the border of that yellow box, isn't that quite much more central? So isn't that more easily accessible to everyone?
So Kelly.
Only that you would have to cross a busy B road. You know, the Ruislip Road is a main artery, and the people in Rectory Park would never have voted in Invicta Grove before. So, and the Rectory Park Community Centre is a good purpose-built, modern, brand new facility. So I think the officers would be loath to not use it.
If I can come in there, Chair, obviously, if that's okay, the Invicta Grove is a temporary polling station. The reason why we didn't use it last time, in fact, was part of the the temporary changes that we moved them to the Rectory Park Community Centre for the GLA because the size of the electorate. So we couldn't. So for the Rectory Park Community Centre, it would just be too much to put them all into that one temporary hut. That temporary hut is barely big enough to handle that electorate that you just put up, the 1800.
Okay, I was going to propose we move straight to the vote on this one. All those in favour of restoring a temporary polling place at Invicta Grove? And none against? Hey, sorry, yeah, the other issue in Greenford Broadway, Councillor Mahfouz.
Thanks, Chair. So we've got the situation in NQ/NS to the east of the ward. So just thanks.
That's about right. Yeah.
Can you zoom out a little bit so we can? It doesn't actually seem to. It doesn't have the letters on there, does it?
Yeah. So sorry, it's not. Yeah, not particularly clear, and I think the light orange line is on this one. But so what we've got is a split of Rectory Park Avenue, I believe, which is obviously just north of the park itself. West and east. Sorry, I'm not talking to the camera. Sorry, Raven Park Avenue. Yeah, Raven Park Avenue. Sorry, in terms of just running north of Raven Park, surprisingly enough. Then you've got quite a large polling district to the east. So this split along the Westridge estate, where we're asking everyone from the northern. You can see there's some cul-de-sacs and so on there at Crescent, right at the top there, where we're asking them to go all the way down to the library to vote, which just doesn't really make too much sense. So what I'm suggesting here is that we actually, I believe it's NQ polling district, which currently votes at the temporary polling station in Melrose, for that polling district to stop just north of Ravener Park Avenue and effectively run along back of those houses, which have got north-facing gardens, and then cut across to the where the ward ends. And so actually NS, which is the one on the right, then gets split. Most of it joins the NQ, but NS becomes smaller, so those people that were asking to vote at the library becomes a more reasonable group of people who actually live close to it.
I basically, I think what you're proposing is NQ and NS would kind of be merged and then split across in the other way, north-south.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know if would that work with the numbers. Obviously, it's a temporary polling place, so it has sort of limited. Councillor Kelly.
Just to sort of make a point, it just needs a little bit of work. This is sort of it's like a hangover from the new boundary changes. So we haven't quite applied the pollings to the new boundary changes, but I would imagine the numbers will be fairly even, and it is, I would suggest that the line be Ferrymead, the south of
I'm saying further south, so Ravener Park Avenue. But
well, it would be fair to say.
So all the Westridge estate then votes at Melrose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Apart from Ravener Park Avenue.
I think the alternative or an alternative would be for NS, to keep NQ untouched and for NS to vote at the community centre. But I mean that maybe it might be better to look at this in a long term. Like Councillor Mahfouz is suggesting, to reconfigure these polling districts so it would work better in the long term.
I think it's going to be a challenge here to work out which evens up, but if we could just address the distance travelling, so as long as the people that are closer to the library, fine. People that it just needs to be split north and south, and that line there'll be a natural place that the officers will be able to find, I'm sure.
Can I come in, Chair?
Yeah,
it's Ross. Yeah, we can certainly do that. We can go away, taking on board those councillors' suggestions, and come back with as equal parity as we can get between the two districts, with a more sensible middle line. So the nearer to one station than the other. So we can certainly take that on board and come back with an option.
Great, Helen.
Thank you, Chair. I was just hoping that maybe if we could agree these tonight, at least maybe get Darren to do some map work. I'm just thinking it would be really good to get this resolved so that we can get things sort of landed without having to have another meeting.
Yeah, I mean, if I can suggest,
if Councillor Mahfouz can describe it, then maybe
absolutely.
Darren
what I was going to suggest.
I'm struggling to visualise it.
No, fair enough. So What I was going to suggest, we're not proposing any polling station changes here. We're just proposing that who votes in each of those polling stations is more appropriate. So if we can agree to that, then I think we could also agree at the same time we could delegate where that line sits to perhaps the chair, who can then do that outside of the meeting, and then he can do that in consultation by email, I guess.
Yeah, we're basically just suggesting reconfiguring NQ and NS. So, retaining the temporary polling station and the library, but making it geographically more sense for people to vote nearer to where they live, but delegating the exact roads, because obviously it would take a bit of number crunching, delegating that to Ross and his team. Yes, I'm in that ward, but I don't live in that polling district.
So if I can propose that we retain the polling stations but review NQ and NS, I would suggest that the boundary runs along the north, the back of the houses, the north-facing gardens of Ravener Park Avenue, but we retain those polling booths in the same location, and we delegate to the chair exactly where that line looks, but it looks like the work's being done at the moment. But I think we can move on. We've got lots of other stuff to get through.
Yeah. So Ross, you would be able to sort of get back to me, if not tomorrow, then within a few days with the actual, where those polling districts.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get straight onto it tomorrow, and hopefully get something to you tomorrow, if not very early next week.
Okay, all those in favour of Councillor Mahfouz's suggestion? Okay, and none against. Okay, so Green for Broadway is all done. Hanger Hill, I don't think there's any changes there. We had a bit of mention of a polling station right at the top last time, which is being retained. Temporary polling station. Hanwell Broadway, no issues there. Sorry, that Hanger Hill's agreed, presumably. Hanwell Broadway, are we agreeing that? Lady Margaret Ward, no issues there. Agreed. Okay, so North Acton, I wanted to mention a couple of things which have been brought to my attention again, partly through door knocking. One is BQ, where the Wesley estate, very peculiar little sort of enclave amid sort of industrial estates. Last time we were talking about taking away its temporary polling place and making people move to Midland Terrace, which Ross informed me is 0.6 miles away, which is, considerably further away than 200 meters, which we were just talking about. And also, I understand locals are telling me that, I've heard that the walk there is quite along the canal is not, terribly safe way of walking, especially in the evening. Buses are fairly limited, so it's not ideal altogether. So I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on that or knows that area at all. Councillor Sabiers.
Yeah, I just reiterate what you've said on that actual point. I think it's important that people can get to polling stations safely. I think some of the points that you raised about walking along the canal, even though we've put a lot of effort into our canals, it's what people feel about, and it's about also distance. And I think particularly there, it's a case of where the closer the better. So I think the feedback, particularly from Acton residents, is more what you were saying rather than what you were.
Councillor Woodruff.
Yeah, I don't know the area particularly well, but just to say I've also been contacted with exactly the same, somebody with exactly the same points you were making just now. So it is obviously something of concern there.
Again, this was somewhere I went on Saturday and had a look round, and so you got the map there, North Acton Road, and so the houses are on one side, and the temporary polling station is in that playing field. But whereas, and I know Ross has mentioned before, vandalism of the temporary polling. I mean, it's strange that you can't have it right on the main road where you would have thought it would be let. But can you explain where exactly it is and why it is in that position? Something to do with electricity, I believe.
So Chair, there's probably a tick list of about 100 things whenever we place these temporary huts. So they've got to be safe for traffic to pass, for the ramps to come down, the DDA ramps for the disabled. The pavement's got to be of a certain width. It's got to be near an electricity point, whether that's a lamp or a pay and display. The cranes, trees, so we use cranes to crane these things in. We often do temporary traffic orders. We actually shut roads in some instances to put these things down. So all these different, the size of the thing that we can get our hands on, the very different sized temporary porter cabins. So all these things are factored in. And so the number one site in that area for us to be able to place it are the playing fields, and so that's where that temporary hut has stood for a number of years. Now, I did mention there has been vandalism. There's been vandalism of all the temporary huts across all the boroughs, doesn't matter where they are, but that one specifically has been problematic, which has led to a 24-hour security guard there for 3 or 4 days in the lead up. But it's just generally with these temporary places that they're not ideal. But that's the reason why it's on the playing field. If you want us to go away and look at an alternative site, that's not out of the question. But again, it's resource. We have to get the contractors. We have to do underground tree mapping. All kinds of things have to go into our decisions in positioning these temporary huts. And then we need to get permissions as well from parks. And so it's not a question of, oh, that looks a all right place to plonk it, let's just put it there. It's really a lot more goes into it than that.
Well, I think we can leave that with you, but I'm going to move straight to the vote on this one. And as we tend to we seeing a trend tonight for restoring people's right to vote, even though it might cost us more money. So yeah, I'm calling for a vote. Who is in favour of restoring that temporary polling place for the Wesley estate? And again, nobody against, so that will be done. The other one in North Acton is very close to where we've just discussed. We just discussed Westcott Park, which is in East, just across. I think there might have been some boundary changes, so these might have been once in the same ward, but they're now in separate wards. And BQ, the bottom slice of BQ, which is around Jenner Avenue, Seacole Close, yeah, that bit. They're being asked to cross not just the A40, but also Horn Lane to get to St Gabriel's Church Hall to vote. And we again come across people who live there who are unhappy with that, would like a nearer place, and having in mind of what we've just decided about Westcott Park, the obvious place would be whether they could pop across the ward boundary and vote at Westcott Park. I don't know, again, if anyone has any thoughts.
Thanks, Chair. And for us, I mean, it's Jenner, Seacole, that's a bit hemmed in. It's in some ways it's quite similar to Westcott Park in terms of the density. It's an extension of the same buildings, but it's you don't have to cross. You don't have to cross the A40, where there has actually been people killed at that junction. You don't have to navigate York Road, Horn Lane, Leamington Park, and they're all busy roads. And also to walk back is uphill as well. So if you're voting at St Gabriel, you have to walk uphill to thing, as where from Jenner to Cotton Avenue. In fact, as you come underneath the railway bridge, there's a little pedestrian access. So if you just pass that purple line and you're heading south, there's a little pedestrian access that goes into Cotton Avenue, so you can walk directly up. So you don't actually have to go down to the Y if you're walking. And I would suggest nobody would drive anyway from there to there, because if you did drive, you'd have to go all the way down to Savoy Circus to come back up again. So, you know, it's I think it'll work. Obviously, it's an extra box, another polling station, but just works so many levels.
Technically, it wouldn't be another polling station because it would be using Westcott Park, but another polling district. You know?
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, another polling district, but it is another polling station. Even though we'd be joining it into Westcott, which is already operating as one polling station, but it's a polling place. So it is an entire, as Councillor Kelly says, it'd be a new box, new team, probably a separate room, etc. But you know, I'm fine with that. It does actually make sense so. We know that Westcott community can take 2 polling stations, so that wouldn't be it wouldn't be a barrier to us putting them in the.
I just wondered, and on a wider issue, that whole area, the Gypsy Corner, you know, North Acton Station, there's a lot of development there, a lot of student accommodation. You would have thought, you know, there's been a big increase in voters, but there's no. I know you keep an eye out. You're notified of new buildings which might be used for polling places. There's none of those new buildings have a community centre or anywhere where we could allow people to vote on that side of the A40. Is that right?
Not that we're aware of. Obviously, you've raised it. Whether we have gone through in detail scientifically recently, we could. Santok, I don't know whether you want to come in on that. Do we know of any suitable fixed buildings in that area?
Can you hear me?
Well,
Just Santok.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we're losing Santok. I'm aware Councillor Ball raised his hand, but I think Helen, I'm going to give you preference first.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say that obviously officers, we do go out and look, but members, you know, you guys particularly, dare I suggest it at the moment, are actually out there knocking on doors, looking, you know, so if anyone comes across buildings that you think might be suitable, especially, dare I suggest it, in areas where we currently have temporary huts, then please do feedback this area as well. You know, you are the eyes and ears of the organisation out on the street. So please do feedback. You know, but obviously there are requirements that the stations have to meet in terms of disability access, health and safety, etc. But yeah, I think that's all I'd say, Chair. You know, we're always open to looking for new suitable, or more suitable than we have at the moment.
So the proposal here to create a small polling district out of BQ in the General Avenue area, and suggesting they vote across the ward boundary in Westcott Park. All those in favour? Okay, sorry, I've just realised that I didn't let Councillor Ball have his say. So we'll hold that vote. Councillor Ball, are you still there?
It doesn't really affect the vote. Yeah, it's just about the possibility of like community centres, well, not community centres, community rooms in new developments and so on. I know Councillor Kate Crawford over the years has pushed very hard for those to be involved in new new developments within, you know, what was East Acton Ward. I'm wondering if talking to her and seeing whether she has intelligence on suitable buildings.
Okay, well, we will liaise with her if she's got any ideas, but I think for the purpose of this meeting, we'll have to go ahead on the information we have. So I'm going to take that vote again. All those in favour of small polling district and Westcott Park being the venue. Okay, and none against. That is agreed. Ross, are you clear on that one?
Yes, clear. Yes, so we'll go away with that. Yeah, we'll create that new polling district. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Woodruff.
Just an extra thing. I think there's somebody else has raised me. In the future, I think the slightly controversial redevelopment of the Friary Park estate, I think in the future may require revisiting this whole thing as well, but not for this election, but in the future.
Yes, I was, again, on my walk around on Saturday, I went to the Friary Park estate, and so it is being redeveloped. And it's got a big sign there saying we're going to have a part of that redevelopment is a community centre. So you would have thought the community centre would be the obvious place for a future polling station, but it may be in 2024 or whatever. So in the meantime, they are going to be voting at the Scout Hut in Emmanuel Avenue. So that I think if we can minute that in the Friary Park Community Centre, the new community centre would be somewhere we'd aspire to have as a polling place when it's built. If you could do that. Okay, that is now finally North Acton done. North Greenford, does anybody have any issues? Or can we agree North Greenford? Agree. And North Hanwell, formerly Hobbain. Agreed. Northfield, Councillor Conti, I thought might have some.
I made this point last time, but I'll say it again. So the VP polling district was previously 3. So it was UE and Elthorne, WD and WE. So it had 3 polling stations. It's now been reduced to 1. We were talking about before, concerned about people walking an extra 200 meters to a polling station. This is significantly more than that. And the one that used to serve the Elthorne part of this new polling district was at St Thomas's Church on the Boston Road. And given the length of distance, I would have thought it would be sensible potentially to divide this one polling district in 2, and having half of it being served by the one just off Northcroft Road, and then the other half down just off the Boston Road. We just think it's quite a long distance if you think about walking from Southdown Avenue all the way up to essentially all the way up to almost Northfield Town Centre. It's quite a long way. It's just the reduction of 3 to 1 polling stations for that area.
I know Councillor Mahfouz wants to come in on this, but I'm going to, Ross, can you just explain the rationale for that VP in particular?
Yeah, that's what the other ones are essentially the same as they are now. Essentially, it's 3 polling stations.
Yeah, Ross.
Sorry, I just yes. So we've got so it's so we've moved that. Sorry, I'm just
Thomas's Church and
Councillor Conti, can I suggest you use a different microphone?
Sorry, I'll just repeat that. So because before there was 3 polling stations, one at Northfield Community Centre, one on the Church Hall on Redley Road, and the other was at St Thomas's Church, and that was serving that whole area. Now it's just 1. So my suggestion was reintroducing the one at St Thomas's Church. So you have one serving the East End and one serving the West End of that polling district, and cutting that polling district in half.
I'm just trying to look now. I mean, Darren, is it possible for you to do your drawings on that to find out what the electorates are? I'm just trying to find my notes from why that has changed, but I've got a feeling it's changed because of the ward lines, is it not?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, Santoki out.
Yeah, it's part of the former UE, which has been added on to that district. So it's not all of it; it's part of it which has been added. So that's why that polling district is slightly bigger than before. As a result of the ward change.
Yeah, it's because of the ward change, isn't it? Sometimes, I mean, it's where are we at there? So 2339. I think it's a double that we've put on the list.
Yeah, it is a double polling station.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that that single polling station is being made into a double polling station. It's the fact it's more the distance. I'm sure where it's being proposed now I think it's the community centre, isn't it? It's being proposed now is adequate in size for the whole electorate, but it's more that people on one end are walking right, quite a significant distance. So, and given that it was, like I say, previously served by 3 polling stations, that whole area is now just being served by 1. My proposal was to reintroduce the one at St Thomas's Church.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from my position, which hasn't changed on some of the recommendations that haven't been agreed and been put back, I would certainly say, unless there's any real obstacles to electors getting there, it's quite a built-up area. That to put another station in there and increase our stations, unless I could see there was a reason why. Is it uphill? Is it down? Is the problems getting there? Are there obstacles? Are the main roads going through? I can't see that. But I mean, if the panel wants to relook into this and put another station in,
Mafu, did I see you want to come in?
It was actually going to be on a. Sorry, yeah, it was actually going to be on a different polling district, but I think. I mean, I can see where Councillor Conti's coming from on this. So I think the question mark would be sort of where you split it again, really, to be honest, because there's 2 north-south roads, which one is Northcroft Road, which obviously you wouldn't use because it's where the actual community centre is located. Midhurst isn't quite sort of far west enough, so you might, it might be a bit of a sort of a job to make the right decision as to where that happens, but I think we should put that on the table in terms of having a separate polling station, because I think it is a very, very large one at the moment. We saw even when the quick back of a fag packet online piece of work was done, about half that polling station was about 2,500 electors, wasn't it? So I think it would be appropriate to say actually the east side, so to speak, of Northfields, that particular polling district, continue to vote at the community centre, and the west side go to vote at the Anglican Church at St Thomas's.
Yeah, I think in light of the conversation we just had about Greenford Broadway, it would be consistent to do the same. But Helen, do you want to come in?
Sorry, yes, sorry to just issue a reminder that each time you restore a polling station, there are significant budgetary implications, and none of these changes are actually budgeted for at the moment. So savings will have to be found elsewhere. I mean, I know that's not the driver for this panel, but just a reminder that in a situation where this every additional provision will mean savings somewhere else. So just to hope that focuses the panel's minds insofar as they weren't already.
Yeah, that is a good warning. Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, that brings me to postal votes. So I know when we were talking about, I think it was Westcott Park, we said it was about 150. On average it's 30%, but in some areas it's going to be considerably higher. Do you have that information for this area?
We could go for the ward across.
Yeah. So for that, what is it? 30? It might be 45% there, or it might be.
I don't have that to hand. I can get that, but I'd need to run that through a different system, because obviously we're looking here at new. The Darren's electorate will not include up-to-date postal vote figures, but at a glance, it's a third on average. I take the point; it might be slightly higher in some places and lower in others. But the way we orchestrated the campaign was obviously everybody was written to, and all promotions were equally spread across the borough. So no, so in answer, I don't have that exact figure at this stage for here. No.
Just to make the point, it's
But it'd be a third less.
put into context when considering extra or polling stations, adding them.
Yeah, but just on that, I think North, at the most recent election, I think Northall's had the highest turnout in the borough. I think it was 53%. But it shows that the current make of the polling districts encourage a good turnout of voting. So, we've spoken multiple times this evening about people becoming disenfranchised, about making it more difficult for people to vote. And I'll just remind you, as we've said before, we were haggling over 200 meters previously. This is a significantly bigger distance we're talking about, and a much bigger electorate. So, I think we need to be consistent also with the decision making, the decisions that we're making.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I agree with Councillor Conte. I mean, we've talked about making sure that people can vote at these sorts of things, and we've just shown that this is a sort of polling station which is, a few thousand people. So it would be appropriate in terms of what we've already agreed earlier this evening. So I think we should agree again, as we've done with the other one, is to agree. Well, I would suggest for the panel to agree, or if Councillor Conte wants to put it forward, that St Thomas's Church is added as a polling district. We sort out exactly where the line is in consultation with the chair outside of the meeting.
Is that what you're looking at? Yeah. Okay, Ross, are you clear on that? We are proposing, we're going to have a vote on it, but we are talking about splitting this polling district, restoring St Thomas's Church, and then we will decide, exactly where that boundary would be.
Sure, we can do that tomorrow again, similar to the Broadway.
Let's have a vote first. Who's in favour of that proposal? Okay, yeah, I'm glad to see consistency wins the day, and that one will be approved. So yeah, if you can get back to me with exactly how you would do that.
Will do.
Councillor Woodruff.
It's not a proposal at all, but the VS polling district down there, they used to have the Mission Hall, which was dead centre of it. I noticed now that's been demolished, the Mission Hall. So now it's going to be at the Assyrian Centre, which means people in Windmill Road at the far bottom. I think they might have to all do postal votes as well. It's quite a long way, if you notice on the map. But there isn't anything that, I don't think there's anywhere there that they could do a polling station anyway, so I'm not proposing anything.
Councillor Mahfood.
So yeah, sorry, the point I was going to make before. The point I was going to make before was in relation to the citing the VQ polling station. So I found it quite strange that actually at the moment we use the log cabin, and I know that we've moved away from using schools. So using the log cabin centre, now it might be great that we're paying them and they're getting some income for it, but given who uses it and the need for them to use it, I would have thought that the library right next door is a far better location to use as the polling station. Will have minimal impact on the young people that currently use the log cabin. I appreciate it's only one day a year, but it's a very
Probably more than one day by the time you set it up.
Exactly, yeah. So I would, and given that the library isn't open 7 days a week or anything, and I don't think, in fact, it's open on Thursdays, so it would make literally zero impact in terms of people's access to the library. So unless there's a massively good reason that we're using the log cabin, I think I would suggest that we use the library going forward.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've just mentioned Greenford Library being used. So is there any reason why the library there can't be used, Ross? Ross or Santok?
Yeah, I think the library is quite small. I'm not sure if we can handle.
It's 3,000. We responded 3,100 electorates. So the postal vote voters, say 2,000. I think it'd be on top market. So we can re-look at it. There would be a reason why we've used cabin over the library, no doubt. Hand, I don't know what that would be, but we can certainly go away, and if the library is suitable, we can use that as a change at the February meeting, or we could because we'll do that in the next few days. Use.
Helen wants to come in, but that might be the way forward. Just to minute it. But.
Chair, I was just going to suggest that the meeting agrees that the polling station moves to the library, subject to it being suitable, and if it's not following officer assessment, then we revert to the log cabin. I think Councillor Mafuz's suggestion is a good one, because I do recall there have been challenges with using the log cabin in the past for that very reason. So if we can, we will, but noting that we need to do that assessment.
Good idea. All those in favour of that suggestion as outlined by Helen? Okay, none against. That is to be minuted as something the officers will explore and report back on.
Just to clarify, Chair, what Helen was suggesting and what I thought I was voting for was that we would change it to the library. That was our agreement. Well, yes. Unless there was some excruciating circumstances as to why we couldn't.
We will change subject to some reason, very good reason given why we can't go to the library. In which case we'll revert back to the log cabin. Okay, Northfield had quite an airing there. My ward, Northolt Mandeville, I don't think there's any issues. Agreed. And Northolt West End, likewise, agreed. Norwood Green, I'm not aware of any issues there. Agreed. Perivale, we had quite a lot of shenanigans last time, so I think we've sorted that. Perivale, agreed. Tanger, formerly Cleveland. Anybody want to? That's agreed. KR, Copley Close. Okay, that's agreed. South Acton. I'm looking in Councillor Sabier's area. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. All agreed. Agreed. Southall Broadway. Agreed. Southall Green. Yeah, that's not the new one, is it? The new Southall West Ward. Agreed. Southfield. Any issues? No. Agreed. Tapping my furious there. Keith. And finally, last but not least, Walpole. Anybody got any issues? No. Okay, thank you very much. That's agreed. And me and Ross will hammer out those little items. The next meeting, I believe, is in February, date to be confirmed. But at that point, we will know where we stand re COVID. And Ross, anything you want to say?
Chair, yeah. Look, thanks to everybody. Just so everybody's got an idea of where we're going with this now. We'll go away and make those amends and those changes and liaise with the chair. We'll publish on the 30th of November the final proposals that are going to go through. So they'll be published, obviously within Ealing and outside of Ealing. But the actual changes will take effect upon a revised register that will be published on the 1st of February. So the key chain of events will be, we'll go away and make the amends now, and we'll publish the results of this review on the 30th of November. On the 1st of December, the register will be published as it would normally, so on your existing wards. So you'll all receive your registers for your existing wards and your existing electorates. On the 1st of February next year will be when we will publish a revised register, and that will be on the new wards. And so you'll all be entitled to copies of those. That's what the nominations will run off that register. And obviously that will be the register that carried through to polling day. Hope that's clear.
Yeah, just to clarify, so the existing wards remain until what date do they become?
In law, because you're still looking after your electors as well for your wards, they come in till 7 o'clock on polling day morning. But in real terms, we obviously need a register for the election on 5th of May, and so the register will come into force therefore on the 1st of February. So in terms of the election in May, it will be the register that's produced on the 1st of February. But clearly what will happen is those in wards that have drastically changed, you will still be representing, no matter where you're going to be standing in May next year, you'll still be representing electorates within your existing wards up until polling day. So you will still receive the electorates for your wards. I hope that makes sense. Questions if not?
Councillor Ball, is that a legacy hand or is that a new point?
No, that's a new one. I was just asking, is that February date fixed by legislation? Is there, or is that a choice to do it that late? Because I think with the 6-month rule, there couldn't be a by-election on the old boundaries from sort of early December. But is it illegal? Is there a national rule that says we can't publish the new one till 1st February?
No, it could be produced from any time between after the 1st of December, Councillor. But the reason being, well, multiple reasons. We could still have a parliamentary election, for example, before, or a parliamentary by-election, probably possibly more likely, depending which way you look at things. But if that was to take place before May the 5th next year, then it would be on the existing wards and the existing polling districts. A reason why we haven't gone for the 1st of December is, look, this is a lot of work. Just once we've done this tonight and we've gone away tomorrow and next week to make these amends we've decided today, we have to push this into our electoral management system. So we've got a lot of work, street by street, house by house. We've got to set it all up and thoroughly check it, of course, and make sure that it's published accurately and that this house isn't in the wrong ward, etc. So there's a huge amount of work that needs to be done. So taking a gauge of the rest of London, most of the rest of London, not all, but most are publishing in February, on the 1st of February, via a revised register.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ross, for all the work you and your team do. I know we've probably given you a lot more work tonight, but appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for your attendance. That's the end of the meeting. Safe journey home.